Chop, 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 chop. We're having our first little workout since all the snow. Very muddy and wet out here. So all we could do is walk. In my last episode, Horses versus Monsters, I portrayed my horse story, starting at riding my pony Stormy in Pee-wee barrels at 2 years old, to riding my mama's spirited Palomino mare, Perk, at 6, and riding a few barrel horses at a farm. On my 12th birthday, my friend said, "Let's go to this barn I ride up the street." I said, "Really? Yes, let's go." We jumped on our mountain bikes and headed to a 40-acre horse stable called Hillcroft Acres. About a 15-minute bike ride headed west. Turning into the entrance at a very large red and white striped barn, it was thrilling, to say the least. I was put on Frog, a gentle soul, big, brown, beautiful ex-jumper, who was generally for small children in walk-trot lessons. The wonderful instructor, Audrey, could see I could ride. I rode Frog a little bit and wanted to untack, groom, and spend some time with him. Audrey came over to me and said, "Would you like to ride next week?" "Yes, please," I replied in an excited tone. Audrey had a very cool British accent. "We'll put you on, puppy. Would you like to ride English?" Excited was beyond the feeling of my insides. I was tingling all over. The next week, I rode in my first English lesson. At Hillcroft, there was a lesson program for youth riders called Hilltoppers, where young people can help with lessons, tack, brush, care for the lesson horses, sweep, clean the office, clean tack, and work to ride. There was a shelf of about 20 papers all about horses. Parts of the horse, how to feed, how to ride, Western, English, pictures to color. To begin, a notebook all about horses. As a writer and a lover of words, pen, paper, crayons, markers, and pencils, I won the Notebook Award 2 years in a row, and then I helped other kids do the same. Not only were my notebook was very thick and 100 pages or more, but I wrote 2 of them. Hillcroft saved my life. The big, beautiful Olympic-sized barn was my safe haven. I longed to go back every day. I went to school, went home, and did my chores. And then I rode my bike to the barn from 1983 to 1992. We had so much fun. Day camp came out every summer, where we would help little kids ride the school horses, mostly at a walk and maybe a little trot. We would work and take care of the barn and then ride in our own lessons. On many weekends, there were Hillcroft horse shows, riding in Western English events. Hillcroft opened in the 60s and owned and operated by the McConnell family, Louise, her partner, then husband Tom, and 4 sons, John, Billy, Mike, and Jimmy, who all went on to have their own successful riding careers. Louise was like a mother to all of us kids. She always had the most beautiful smile, hearty laugh, and kind nature. She passed away in 2019. I have a page, Hillcroft Acres Memories, on Facebook. 1992 was my last year at Hillcroft. I rode Puppy Love until 1985. I continued riding many of the school horses: Chocolate Chips, Sunshine, Hester, Fantasia, Bopper, Larry, Blue, and some of the private horses too. My favorite being Sunshine, Applesauce, and Shiloh. I continued to ride and work, braiding and grooming, paying for my own horse show expenses. I worked for Stock Show a few years in a row. I spent part of my summers in Estes Park braiding and grooming, enjoying helping people with their horses, and loving being in the mountains. I have many Hillcroft memories and stories to convey. To be continued. Trot! Cancer! Cancer! Nice soft sand in here, so it's not too slippery. I'm not letting him go into the wet part. Meadow's cleaning. He just got done lunging. And here's Miles. He's not too bad. They're gonna be dirty in the winter, so. And he rolled in the sand. So, we gotta clean them all up. And put his blankie on. So, here we go. Ready to go for the snow that is coming. Are you ready, Chakra? In my last episode of Horses vs. Monsters, horses love to run fast because a large bird-like dinosaur called Titanus walrus, aka the terror bird, terrorized the poor equine so much they ran across a land bridge between North America and Russia. Closely related to the Cerema birds, today are falcons, parrots, cranes, and sparrows. In 4500 BC, the horse was being domesticated. Are there wild horses in Europe? And are there wild horses in America? The true wild horses of the world is a taki from Mongolia, meaning spirit. Also known as the Przewalski horse, named after Colonel Nikolai Przewalski, shortened to be called the P horse. A 19th century explorer and Russian army officer. In 1878, while on expedition in Central Asia, he received the gift of a horse's skull and hide from a dignitary. The remains were studied by a conservator at the Museum Russian Academy of Science. He concluded it was a wild horse and named it Equus Przewalski. Our last winter here. Hi, Panda. You want some hay and grain? She's nice. She'll give him kisses. Give him kisses, Shocky. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. Okay, now get a big hunk of hay. Because hay. Next week we're gonna go get it. A big hay. But for now we have grass hay. Colonel Nikolai later returned to study them in the wild. Previous records include rock and tool engravings to go back to 20,000 BCE and a written account from a Tibetan monk, Bodowa, around 900 CE. Genghis Khan reportedly spotted the horses on his conquest in the 15th century. German writer Johann Schildberger, who happened to see the horse in Mongolia while a prisoner of the Turks, wrote about talkies in his journal. In 1630, a talkie was presented to the Emperor of Manchuria. The pea horse was thought to be a close ancestor to the domestic horse. They are actually distant cousins, related to a common ancestor 500,000 years ago. Big smiles. Break it first.
You don't want that chocolate. That's stinky yogurt.
They are very shy and possess a keen sense of smell, hearing, and sight. They also can go a long time without water. Colonel Nikolai tried to hunt them, but he would say, like a windstorm, they fled and disappeared. Zoologists and exotic animal lovers wanted to capture the horses, yet they have been proven difficult and hard to keep alive in captivity. Once ranging throughout Europe and Asia, competition with man and livestock pushed the herds to venture further east into Asia and becoming extinct in the wild. The domesticated wild horses of Australia, North America, and East Coast Barrier Islands are feral, domesticated horses that escaped from ranches and farms, returning to the wild. In the wild, pea horses graze on grass and leaves from shrubby trees Like zebras and donkeys, they are hindgut fermenters, needing large amounts of water and low-quality food. Bonnie was just headbutting Chakra, but banged her head on the gate. So, that taught her a lesson. Good girl, Chakra. That's a good girl. They also have been given names like the Asian wild horse, Mongolian wild horse, Zungarian, and Taki, spirits or holy horse in Mongolian. Legends from the animals include messenger carriers from the gods to Genghis Khan and his army riding them in a quest to conquer the world. A German animal merchant named Karl Hagenbeck acquired P-horse and sold them to zoos in London, Cincinnati, Paris, Amsterdam, Hamburg, and New York. Hagenbeck took at least 52 foals with expeditions to catch the P-horses, lasting 20 years. In order to catch the foal, stallions were often killed, jeopardizing their natural breeding. The horses didn't do well in captivity. After World War II, the population was at 31. In Munich and Prague, 9 of them reproducing. By the 1950s, the population had dipped to 12. In 1959, a German zoologist assembled a stud book, which was maintained by the Prague Zoo. Soon, conservation groups began organizing to save the species. By 1965, there were 134 horses living in 32 zoos and private parks. The P horses in the wild weren't faring very well either. Deadly winters and overgrazed pastures left the P horses to die off in thousands. The last group was spotted in 1969. Mongolians in the 1970s and 80s only knew of the Takis by stories and pictures. 20 years to pass, and finally the breeding programs became effective enough to try introducing the P horses to the wild once more. By 1990, the population were near 1,000 in over 129 institutions, 33 countries, on 4 continents. Claudia Feh, a Swiss behavioral ecologist specializing in equines, fell in love with the horses. After seeing one at a zoo, Claudia spent 20 years trying to help the P-horse population. In 1993, she relocated 11 zoo-born horses to France and began her own breeding program. 10 years later, she was able to reintroduce the Taki in family groups at Kar Us Nur National Park. Her first horses, Claudia and her team, fed them hay, apples, and told them stories to keep them calm. Claudia also raised awareness among the Mongolians. You can't protect species without protecting habitats. And the idea was, okay, let's get the Taki horse back home, but also the idea to save one of the most threatened species in the world. Mares at the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute graze on pasture a few hours a day. They do research on the aspects of female and male reproductive physiology to help understand why many zoos in North America are reporting infertility issues where not many foals are being born in the last 10 years. This sweet picture of a foal smelling the air with his mare, a 12-year-old mare, Leda, and her new foal to be born in Scotland at the Highland Wildlife Park in 2013, first to be born in 5 years. In an August 2020 Economic Times IndiaTimes.com article was a story of a broodmare and her Showalski's colt named Kurt, after the man Kurt Benersky, creator of the world's first frozen zoo for cryopreservation of genetic material from endangered. Almost all pea horses can be traced back to 12 parents, and cloning will introduce genetic diversity to help with species survival. Not unheard of, the veterinary facility at the San Diego Zoo global cloned little Kurt from the DNA of a male Showalski's horse. It had cryopreserved since 1980. Takis have 66 chromosomes, where their domestic horse has 64. They can produce fertile hybrids with 65 chromosomes that are also able to have offspring. The hybrids look like Takis, to be identified through chromosomal testing. Also to include the woolly mammoth and the Sumatran rhino, to revive 6 extinct and endangered species. The Showalski's horse was extinct in the wild, but intensive breeding programs have helped the horses to survive, and herds have been reintroduced into Mongolia, China, and Kazakhstan. There are 4 large reserves where captive pea horses roam: France, Uzbekistan, Hungary, and the Chernobyl exclusion zone in the Ukraine, where they are thriving, released to increase biodiversity in the area and better balance the ecosystem. A 1,000 square mile habitat free of many humans. In 2019, researchers from University of Georgia captured 11,000 plus images of the horses using the abandoned dwellings as shelter. The last true undomesticated wild horse of the world, last found on the Mongolian steppes of the Gobi Desert. Different from the Sahara, the Gobi Desert is extremely dry, but has areas of springs, steppes, forests, and high mountains, supporting a great diversity of animals. To help save the Showalski's horse and other endangered species, support conservation. Learn more about Genetic Rescue with Revive and Restore Project. Use your electronic devices as long as possible, mining for minerals used in cell technology. Degrades their native habitat. Support the creation of buffer zones to preserve grazing lands for the beautiful and wild Showalski's horse. Thank you for watching and continuing to come along with me on my journalism journey. I have always wanted to make a horse documentary, and now the time finally has come to continue to tell my story. Please stay tuned.